Did y'all go to somewhere over for the holiday? Or I saw
Tahoe, yeah,
Lake Tahoe.
yeah, like that. That was good. It's good to see how it feels to be in an environment where it's just us. It's been a while for a good week. So
Mhm.
you
But you
know,
had like a cabin or something up there?
I had a condo. That was kind of cabin like. Um, yeah, but yeah, it was nice.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
know,
that was a nice picture to put up.
yeah. It's beautiful up there. That's all I can say. They don't believe in wearing no mask up there though. Only about half of the people wearing masks. I'll say that much.
A lot of freedom lovers in Tahoe.
Yeah, a lot of freedom lovers. That they don't know no mask and no leash on the dogs.
Mm.
Mm.
You know.
That's it. That's two good signs of who was mostly there.
Right.
Without saying.
Yeah,
They got that thing online where it say something without saying something. That's like if you want to
yeah.
say who was mostly there without saying it. That's
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, I could count how many of us it was up there on one hand. I mean, outside of myself. So you know,
yeah.
yeah.
All
Hmm.
right. Well, that's Dave Evans you see down there at the bottom holding court, and a guest today, Drew Stevens, our good friend. This is a bit of a reunion, a college reunion, SIU reunion. We just wrapping up the year 2020, uh, second half, I guess, of our year in review. We did our first half a couple weeks ago with D Jackson, and it was a real good show. Really appreciate everybody who watched it, who watched that episode and came on the YouTube page. Hopefully, some of y'all checked out some of the other stuff we doing on Regal. I think a lot of new people, uh, checked out in the building or checked out one of our shows for the first time. So, definitely appreciate that. And just like I said, just wrapping up, doing the second half. I was thinking about doing it originally the second half of the year in review before Christmas, but I wasn't able. I wanted to get another voice in the mix with us, and the holiday week was kind of weird, so sort of pushed it back, and we doing it now just before New Year's, but I'm glad to have Drew on, man. I uh, Drew, I know you're going through a little bit right now. Drew is actually infected with the COVID, so he making sure that his 2020 experience is fully legit. You know, he's really he's really going in with the whole 2020 experience. But he's maintaining and everything, and you know we just we surviving, man. We all glad to be here. I I had to deal with the loss of my grandfather recently, and I appreciate everybody who reached out to me regarding that. And it's hard, man. It's we dealt with a lot this year, individually and as a collective. And that I want to be. I don't know. With this final hour or so that we're going to talk, man, I don't want to be too caustic or too down on anything. I just want to check in, and you know, uh, like I say, just try to bring everything out on a certain note, a note of peace and acceptance as much as anything. I think, with Drew being here, I want to say that one of the coolest things about this year was reconnecting with Drew, because I think I haven't really. It's been about since like we was in school where we were last interacted with each other on a daily basis or near daily basis. We was both working at the Daily Egyptian down there in the sports department, and you know, Dave would come by and visit every now and then, You know,
That Halloween party is.
yeah, off the off-campus stuff there. But yeah, during that school hours, we all would be in the communications building and stuff, doing our thing. And, those was much simpler times. But really reconnecting this year and really seeing, being able to help Drew provide a platform for himself and see the energy that he's brought to it, man, as a writer and helping out with these shows and everything, being involved with streams and stuff, our basketball show and everything. He really dived into that, like a fish in the water, man. And I really, like I said, I really enjoyed reconnecting with you, man, and I really appreciate it. And reestablishing our friendship was really something that was a pleasure in this year. I would say, amongst all the rough stuff, that was a unique pleasure, man. And I'm really glad that we're gonna be able to take this going forward, man. Like I said, I hope the COVID don't take you out.
I don't think it will. I think I'm all right, man. I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna be all right. But I appreciate your words, man. Uh, Being able to reconnect with you and find a official platform for something that I love to do has been probably the best part of my 2020, man. I can't even front, man. I know you hate to hear it, not hate to hear it, but you rather not me say it to you, man. But I appreciate you, brother, for giving me that platform. And I look forward to continue to work with you, man. Continuing to uh, just reconnect with you and continue to build. I was definitely a hermit at SIU for sure. I think that party you talking about was probably one of the only ones I went to. I can count on one hand how many I went to for my 4 years there. Like legit, like I'm just a very like to myself type of dude. Like we talked about gray hairs and whatnot. Like I feel like I'm an old man. Like my head, my scalp should be full of gray hair. With the way that I carry myself, but yeah, man, it's good to be back with you guys and to see David, man. First time on a stream with you. Hear about you got a son on the way and your family's doing good. It's all love, man. It's great to hear, especially during a year that's been tough for all of us in different ways.
Yeah. No, agreed. Like, this, yes, it's always good reconnecting and seeing people from the OSIU crew. Kyle can already tell you, about the kind of my small group of people that I went to SIU. If I kind of stay connected with them through our little Facebook meetups, and I love them, but some of them look like they got the COVID. It's weird. It's weird. It's just weird how life, ages you. Some people will hit different. But no, it's been the years affect us all differently, and it seems like it's been good. It seems like at least externally it's been good to you. So that's
oh, and look, I just checked on Facebook, right? Because I was gonna do a little sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And look, you know who birthday today is?
Il Brown.
No, man. Who we guy we went to school with, man.
Why am I drawing a blank on his name? Hannibal?
No. What was your name for him?
Oh, Junkie.
Yes.
Mario. Oh yeah, I gotta hit him up. Mario. Oh, yeah. I gotta hit him. See, still stuck in Iowa. That's what I gotta figure out.
I think. Let me see. I think so.
Junkie.
Mario. He was a little bit young. He was a little bit younger. He worked with me in the food hall.
Okay.
And he I think you had left already, Drew, but he worked my last semester. We were starting the Egyptian online, like redoing it or whatever. And I was the online sports editor, and he was like the webmaster or whatever. So me and him worked a lot that year.
Okay.
Because he was technical and stuff, and I was like just doing just running the sports side of the website. But he a wild dude, man. Yeah,
Never,
it says he's in Storm Lake, Iowa. So I guess he's
uh,
still, and he looking like he in prison though with his little prison muscles. But
uh,
shout out to Mario the Junkie.
yeah, yeah, or not. Sorry, that came out. Sorry, that came out wrong. He made.
Man, that's what he used to call him, man. I was like, I
You
know
know,
David. I knew David would come up with that.
I just have to remember this being recorded. I don't want to get nobody, share nobody's, no nicknames or whatnot. Because none
No,
of,
he was literally a junkie, y'all. He
Right.
well, no, he was high all the time, and that's why.
A lot of people were high though.
But when you light skin, you see it better. That's all. It's like it's not like you can't mask it. Like that's one of the,
like a tattoo.
it's like it was clear as day on his face. It wasn't like anything that he could hide. When he was,
Oh man.
You with his face, yeah, you could definitely, yeah, you couldn't match it.
He couldn't do a poker face. When yeah. So that's
No.
all. That's why the name stuck for me. But yeah, happy birthday to him.
But you mentioned L Brown though. Shout out to him and Diary of a Dope Chick, LaDonna Blair, getting married, getting engaged.
Yeah.
So that's definitely somebody who would try to get on the show in the next year. Either the both of them or at least one of them. I already talked to LaDonna a little bit about it, but yeah, that's it's a lot of good news too. A lot of people doing stuff, doing positive things, keeping it moving. So we got to celebrate that definitely amongst our friends.
Yeah, yeah. It's the years had some highs, had some lows. You saw my post the other day, Kyle. About me being out of the real estate game, and it's always and that was the high. The low was the conversation after it. I mean, you make the mistakes that you shouldn't do. You go into business with family and stuff, and I missed baby mama drama for anybody but going into business with family was definitely one of the things I never do that. I don't care if they get a rap deal, a record contract. I mean, a record contract. They get a pro ball contract. Just don't do it. He said,
right.
Okay.
They say the no auspices is just leave the dealing with family alone.
in business,
Yeah, in business, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's like with our lessons, man? You got to go through it to move past and get better, man.
Yeah.
But you had a building though here in Chicago. You were able to sell it, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I dealt with everything except fire though. That's all I can say. That's why I got all this gray, Drew. You can't see it. But I look like a cat, an old cat. So
a hairless cat.
No, old cat, like you see the black cats with the gray whiskers and stuff. That's,
they got low hair too. They be
yeah. So no, that's all. So no, it's I can write a book on that one. So no, I'm just happy to be going into 2021 clean. Just kind of with a pretty clean slate. So that's one thing I'm grateful for.
You had a lot of narrative this year, Dave. I mean, looking at where you started, man, you was unemployed and dealing with a lot of stuff and in the transition period, and you picked up with your fam and moved to Cali, and I mean, what do you think about your year, man? Just looking back on it all, man.
If I could have, if I could have seen, December 31st of last year, where the hell I was going to be, I remember that night too, because it was my last night at my job. It was actually tonight would have been the last night at my job, and my one of my coworkers cooked this big spread. It was really nice of her. And if I could have known once I left where I was gonna be at, I would have been like, maybe I would have I would have stayed where I was at a little bit, a little bit longer. But no one knew COVID was gonna happen. I think COVID just kind of upended a lot of moves. Like I had a,
Yeah.
I had a show. I had a meetup, a real estate meetup, back in like February, and it was going well. And then COVID came, and I didn't pivot to an online platform quick enough. And it was just a lot of stuff going on over in that time where I was, trying to prepare for move, sell my house, move out here, self quarantine for a couple weeks, moving my in laws, go through the growing pains of that, trying to sell my investment property from halfway across the country, you know, working the other deals I had going on, and yeah, it's just really been an interesting year. Get acclimated to a new environment, get licensed in a new environment, just all this stuff. It was a fair bit. Find out I got a kid on the way, kind of adjust to parenting responsibilities that I hadn't, been as hands on with before previously, having to be more hands on now. Just it was a lot.
Mm.
Kudos for you, man. To you for the courage to move and change your situation, man. Like I feel like that's the hardest part of life. It's just that initial unbudging of yourself to do something different, man. When you see that it's not going a certain way that you want it to go.
Yeah, COVID made it easy though. I'm not gonna lie, 'cause like COVID, you don't give it, all the drawing out goodbyes and stuff like that. Or the things that you would normally do. You now have a go or a formal going away parties. A lot of that became a little bit more difficult. Did something small for family and friends, but like on a
Right.
larger scale, you couldn't really,
We went over to his house, had to stay 6 feet away from him and the kids the whole time, and we
all that.
singing "Boys to Men" on the
Shit was mad awkward.
on the sidewalk in front of his old house.
That was quite awkward. But yeah, yeah, no, it was definitely, I appreciate the formal send off. But yeah, I mean, there's people who I haven't been able to even tell yet that I'm gone. I was on the phone with somebody, and I
There's
was trying to tell them,
people back here who still ain't know you left.
nobody checks my damn link. I mean, like on LinkedIn, I changed it. I mean, I changed it on Facebook, but I ain't on Facebook that much anyway.
Somebody looking at you thinking you at Promontory Point. There's a lot of sun out. There's some nice pictures they took.
Yeah,
By the lake there.
yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, so it's still people I hadn't necessarily formally got to tell, but at the same time, even the way you used to go see people, you can't see them anymore. So a lot of the
Yeah.
so that's been a part of the challenge. But yeah, it's been that year. Whereas if you didn't learn how to pivot in whatever your business or whatever you were doing, you definitely got caught. And those are some lessons I learned over this year, and yeah, really just patience more than anything. That's what this year has taught me.
Yeah. So Kyle, I got this kind of like David. We just now we're reconnecting. So that absence from being in a certain space with you, there's things that I still don't know. So I picture you as being like very busy, like almost every second of the day. You get your hand in so many different things. Has this for real? Has this year increased your workload? Like, has it dropped it back, or it's been about the same? Because you do a lot, man. You do a lot.
Who me?
Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Now you talking to me.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say. I would say that I've had busier years, but I think I learned more about working smarter and uh, and taking more taking like more time and like doing a little bit more to express myself out in certain ways and online and stuff like that in ways that I haven't done before. Like really the big thing for me this year has been what we're doing now with the streaming and stuff. That is sort of revelatory to me because it was something that I thought could have been a part of what I've been doing for a while, but I didn't go into it really like I didn't really try it before this year. I didn't really have the I didn't have the urge to do it. I didn't have the urgency. It was more about, trying to secure spaces where we could record and stuff. For a while we were recording down at the Illinois Media School, doing a lot of recording down there, and we was able to we was able to really be lucky and get some space, get some time and space down at the Score, at the CBS studios downtown and stuff. And those were some great times, being able to record in professional spaces and do stuff like that. Dave knows about that. But this year all that shut down. No type of access like that was available. So and this was the way for basically everybody in the game. It was like, if you're gonna do anything, you got to do it through these specific platforms, Zoom and StreamYard. And I was kind of salty about Zoom at first, because I was up on Zoom a year ago, like in 2019. Nobody was messing with Zoom. Then I was like, damn, now everybody messing with Zoom, man. I was like, I was kind of salty about that, when the whole when the whole pandemic thing came about. But I really like, I appreciate Zoom, and I could mess with it, but I really appreciate being able to come across StreamYard, and I look to do more with StreamYard in the next year and build more on it. But yeah, I would say, just it's made me much more prolific. So but it hasn't been hard to do, and it's been, it's like I said, it's been much easier to do shows with you, and instead of like trying to like bringing you aboard, trying to figure out when you could come downtown and or come to a certain place and do stuff with me and any number of the guys. It's more about like just figuring out the time when we can all be able to sit for an hour or so and talk and be able to have our cameras in front of us. So it's, that again is something that wouldn't have happened without COVID. I wouldn't even have thought of that at all, really, if it wasn't for COVID. So the blessing and the curse thing, the two sides of the sword,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely makes things easier to kind of record, and not having to go through the logistics of meeting up and all that other stuff. Meeting up in one place.
Yeah. And I think a little late, I kind of want to, like, talking about projecting things forward. I think it's interesting to think about how much of these things are going to stay with us, and in what capacity. Like, how much are we going to record like stuff like this in the future? How much of it is going to be necessary, and how much are we just going to be used to doing stuff like this in the future, as opposed to the way that we did it before, March of this year, But before anything, I want to sort of go back with you too, Drew, because I think at the beginning of the year we hadn't really reconnected yet. So I just wanted to get like a sense of where were you at at this point, crossing over into 2020. What were you focusing on? What was sort of the things that were going on with you in your life at that point, and how do you sort of look back on that at this point now?
Wow. That's a big question there. I think at this point last year, man, I was just trying to figure out what I could do to be a better dad. Like, everything revolves around my son. I'm not with his mom anymore. Still going through the legal process of that. Uh, so there's a lot of kind of hurdles right now. So I think I was just trying to figure out, what I could do to put myself in a position to be where I needed to be for him. Um, Not even in terms of financially, just having that space for the two of us to be able to share with him like things that my dad and my uncle shared with me when I was his age. He's 5 now. Um, he's in kindergarten now, so preparing for that chapter of his life. Him going to school and getting hit with COVID and that kind of forcing things to be done remotely and having to figure out a plan with his mother, uh, learning learning on the fly, man. Because this remote learning it almost took me back to kindergarten, man, a little bit. It was difficult for sure, and we still not all the way through it yet. They're talking about bringing kids back into his age group back into the classroom in February, so it's going to be even more, learning to be done, which ain't never going to stop. This is the way life is, but that's what my head was. I wasn't really even thinking about writing until uh, news started to drop that The Last Dance is going to be released earlier. And that just kind of stirred up some things in me. I think
Yeah, that's what made me reach out to you. You had did this long ass post on Facebook that he did this long. He did like a column on Facebook in the update section. And I looked at that and I was like, this dude seems like he wants to write. So I just reached out to him. And I was like,
it never really left, man. And periodically I would write. Like I had a little blog I was doing here and there, man. But it was never anything consistent. You've allowed me the space to write in a consistent fashion that I haven't done actually since the Daily Egyptian. To just put the spotlight on it. But yeah, having The Last Dance come out, that kind of brought those feelings back up, and as luck would have it, you saw it, you read it, and here we are today, man. Long winding road back.
Yeah. That's I got to talk. We got to talk about that in a little bit too. Like, sort of talk about certain things with sports that have sort of defined the year. But yeah, I wanted to get y'all thoughts right quick on, because it's something that I don't have much. I can't speak on much myself. I do. It has been interesting that I've looked at another young life enter the world this year through my sister. So I have my third. I'm an uncle 3 times now, so I have a second niece along with my nephew. Congrats. And so I see my sister become a first time mother. And it's interesting just thinking about how, that I think there was like a term, they haven't used it much lately, but they earlier in the pandemic, they was talking about people giving birth in the pandemic and, how babies may be affected and children and stuff like that, born in this age, what that's going to mean to them. And, both of you guys having, you didn't give birth yet. Dave, you guys are expecting soon, but you both of you took care of young children in this wild time, and I just want to get y'all thoughts on what's it meant for y'all to take care of these young lives in part, and what it's been like to have to oversee and look out for them throughout a year like this.
I'll let you go first, Drew. I feel like it's going to be the easier. You're going to have the more direct answer.
Wow. It's been scary, man. And I think being a parent is already scary enough, man. Like it's days when I wake up and I'm just like paranoid with these desires to just get my son just far away from anything that could ever harm him, harm his person, harm him psychologically, harm him emotionally. So now you throw a pandemic into the mix. It just confuses everything that much more. My thing was just doing my best to try to help explain to him what was going on, in addition to what he was getting from his mom and uh, people on her side of the family. Still paranoid, of course, and just being that much more cognizant of like things like hand washing, especially with little kids. Man, you know, they ain't really thinking about germs and whatnot like that, man. So just trying to stay on him and stay behind him when he's in the bathroom, making sure he's doing what I'm trying to teach to him, trying to teach him. Um, and see this going back to school in February scares me too, of course. But CPS seems to um, have thought about all the things that they can think about. Of course, there's always some extenuating circumstances, but knock on wood, God can only hope that they're taking the necessary precautions. And if he is asked to come back in the classroom, you know, that he's being supervised in a way that is going to be comparable to what I would be giving him here at home. Um, but it's just this pandemic this year has only just added to the fear of being a parent for me.
Dave, I could imagine before you go in, I could only imagine you trying to get the girls to wash their hands for 20 seconds at a time.
You know what? So I mean, so a couple different things here. So one, I'm in a place of privilege, and I have to kind of, for me it becomes hard to keep things in perspective at times, especially when I'm in a um, new business venture. Nor, well, I don't say new business venture, but in a new market and trying to establish myself. And it's always in trying to do that working from home. A lot will be challenging, and sometimes it's kind of hard for me to keep things in perspective on one, how fortunate I am to one have a 6-year-old who is pretty self-sufficient when it comes to those things. She washes her hands well. She, I don't know, parrots she watches the news with my in-laws, so they kind of parrot any of the, CDC findings and what Dr. Fauci says. So she's really cognizant of what's going on. My 4-year-old, she don't give a shit. So she's only special. And we gotta tell her 15 times, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Before we came in here, we were at the park. And we told her to wash her hands. She still go run to the kitchen to try to grab food. And you got to constantly have to kind of redirect her to be aware of the necessity of washing your hands. But that being said, I think the biggest challenge is just being acclimated to like the school from home thing. She tends to, my oldest is doing it, my youngest is not yet, which is another challenge because someone keeping her busy, she doesn't, after a while she can only keep entertain herself for so long, and then she's either coming to me, my wife, or my mother-in-law for some attention. And that's to be expected. She's 4. My 6-year-old, like I said, she's doing online learning, but sometimes being in front of the computer too long, she gets frustrated if something's not working on it, so she'll start yelling, or yelling for either me or my wife to come because something's not working on her computer or her Zoom call. So I think it's just really just to being able to keep things in perspective, saying this is something that they're not used to, and that's a challenge for them. And it tends to be, and I think my 4-year-old is not able to kind of articulate it as much, or she's not aware of the change as much as my 6-year-old is. And for her, yeah, it definitely has it's had been some challenges for her. Just being able to control emotions and frustrations at times, just being, stuck in the house is, due to the pandemic.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I applaud y'all, man, for being able to, you know, uh, go through these things, man, and just be there for y'all children, and I feel for the kids, man, that that they have to come of age in part through such a time. I couldn't imagine, being at an age like that, and having the the worry about the existential worries that you know that I've had just as an adult. I've been be able to deal with it. It's easier to deal with it, when you've seen more in life, when you've seen the things in life that we've already seen. But as a kid, you just like I say, just all of a sudden, just wonder, why do you have to stay indoors all the time? Why do you have to go about life when it was such a carefree existence such a short time ago, where there's all these new rules and all these new things you have to abide by, all these you have to worry about all these different things now. It's tough, man. And the schooling too, like there's been a lot of reports about how kids are being failed in a lot of ways because they can't get the type of teaching that they need in a lot of ways with this distance learning and stuff. And there's certain things that that they have to really deal with, that they shouldn't have to. And I just I wonder about how I think in the future we're gonna be looking at a lot of we talk about generations and stuff, and how the things that formed generations, like you had the World War II generation, you had the usually it was like war. Usually it's like wars that form generations. Vietnam, the Iraq War, World Wars, of course, and this I guess this is gonna be a thing that really defines this year, and the fallout from it is really gonna do a lot to define the children of that's being raised now. Yeah, I just wonder, like, what's that gonna mean for our future?
Well, I mean, from an education standpoint, distance learning, I think if anything, with I guess the online learning should show now, distance learning is hard. I mean, it's hard for kids. It's hard for the adults to adhere to. Ironically enough, it seems like when you're in a physical classroom, you get less work than when you're in distance learning. That at least from what I remembered. I mean, I had a few courses that I needed to finish up for SIU, and I ended up having to take them distance learning, and yeah, it wasn't easy. So you know, yeah, so I think that I can only imagine the stress and the strain that it puts on children. I think also part of the issue is why a lot of kids are probably behind or being failed by the teachers is because one, you got to have parental support, and I think with the global pandemic, and I've seen it in my own house, there's a lot of people kind of had like this. What they have, I don't want to say they have a fuck it mentality, but they have a part of their mindset where we're in a global pandemic, so we're going to lower our standards on how we do things to a certain extent. And
Yeah,
I think that unfortunately is like if you're not giving your kid the same level of support, and luckily, when it comes to my children, I haven't seen that in my household, but I'm pretty sure in a lot of people's household, with just kind of being stuck inside and other stresses to worry about, economic stresses. A lot of times, kids end up falling by the wayside. The attention towards the kids end up falling by the wayside. And what teachers used to do is physically they used to hold, be able to provide more support, but I don't think a lot of education programs probably across the country were really prepped for online learning. And I think that's a part of the challenge is that, they didn't have a contingency. No one had a contingency plan in place for COVID. I mean, that's really what I think that's really what's kind of hit us all, was that no one had a plan B in place for when things like this happen.
and yeah, that's definitely gonna be a big part of it. I mean, I'm kind of thinking more in a grander sense, though. Like as far as that stuff goes, that's probably gonna be like kids in the 50s or 60s talking about how they used to, uh, hide under desks and do the nuclear drills and stuff like that. But there's also, when you do something like that, there's a psychological effect that occurs, a grander thing that's it's not always there at the ready to talk about, but it's something deeper than just like I said. There's an existential fear of death that was there for those kids back in those days, because at any time there was the fear of the Soviet Union sending nuclear bombs to our shores. So I'm thinking about like today for these kids, what is that existential thing that's going to be there, that's going to outlast even this time where we've dealt with this stuff and we've dealt with this pandemic, but I think some things are going to last beyond it that we won't necessarily have a hold of.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think everybody will be mentally, to a certain extent, that just will be have some level of scar or negative memories associated with it. But as far as from kids' perspective, it really depends on one, how old they are. And I think that, kids historically in this country have had other traumas that they've had to deal with outside of COVID, being stuck in the house of COVID. I mean, in some instances, I think that some of the other issues that have come up with COVID, some of the other ugly after effects of it is increases in domestic abuse. Um, those things just being stuck in the household that occur with just kind of being stuck in the household all the time, unfortunately, are some are going to be some of the more, I think, negative things that kind of come out of or scar, children in it during this, environment. I don't know if how, so I think that's something to take it with a, kind of factor in with it, is that one, some kids are going to, be affected by COVID, but I think it's not necessarily because unless they had somebody who passed directly, as a result thereof. But it may just be like somebody, they were affected by, they may have saw, domestic abuse in their house or experience of it, or child abuse in their house because they've been stuck in an apartment or house with their parents all day. Um, that may
I mean,
be something that ends up kind of like a byproduct of it.
a lot,
So
yeah, a lot of it's probably going to have to do with who was rearing them. Yeah, who is providing them the messages beyond what they see on television and what they see, what they take in through the computers and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, but I think a little bit more kind of germane is who was raising them in the first place. Who, because unfortunately, all parents are not made equal, and I think a lot of people out here who have children don't necessarily have the bandwidth or the patience for them, and I think that COVID, in a lot of cases, probably is magnifying that. So, the break that a lot of parents got from, with school, that's been eliminated. And for those who, and compounded with the economic stresses, if you have a job that's no longer there because you are in the service industry or you are a retail, and depending on where you're at, like if you're in Chicago right now and you're stuck in an apartment and you got your kids and they do what they normally do, they jump around and they scream. At some point, though you're their parent, you're a human being, you may lose your shit, and or you may end up yelling at them or something along that stage. Because I mean, even in the most that happens, even in the most optimal situations, and so I think that
And,
that
and,
is more of a concern.
and you got to factor in two people dealing with, being, with loss of money, loss of income, loss. Like that's one of our big subjects now this week is, Washington, reaching a stalemate again. Not, Mitch McConnell barely won one. For some reason, just want people to starve or something. They just don't want to help people out, and you know, we gonna take this little $600 for the moment. I guess that we gonna get. Have either one of y'all got your money yet?
Nah, man, I don't know when the hell I mean. I don't. They, from what I understood from the first time they sent it, they go based upon, the previous year's tax filing. So
Yeah,
it's dependent upon whatever you made in 2019, effectively. And
yeah. Most
so,
yeah, most people gonna be just getting that six. Like, but somehow some households like Dave, y'all probably gonna be getting 12, right? Because
well, yeah,
or more, a little more than that.
right. But what I meant as far as the speed. From what I understand,
Yeah,
I mean, the
yeah,
speed of what
yeah,
you get is based upon what your income was in 2019.
yeah.
Um, is what I'm kind of referring to. But yeah, it's 600 per person in the household. But that being said, it's of course that's not a whole lot. in light of what's occurred for a lot of people this
and,
year.
and,
Um,
and it's been that way for months. And I know y'all, we seen videos of people, you know, with long lines for food pantries and all this type of things, and a lot of people been dealing with things that they haven't had to deal with in a while, or maybe ever have had to deal with this year because of this stuff, So
yeah, yeah. I mean, it. You know, I think the only good thing I can say about this year, regarding that is, I think one of the people who at least 45 is going. I mean,
yeah,
hopefully we'll have somebody with, and from what I know, that he was part of the reason why the unemployment benefits are going to be delayed is because he didn't sign the extension bill. So
mhm.
yeah, I think that it's a bad situation for a lot of people. If anything, it just tries to make me just cognizant of where I'm at, I guess what to be grateful for this year, and try to help out where you can. I mean, if you have family that's in bad shape, check on them. Be reach out to them, and and normally, and if you feel like you have a lousy day, call somebody call somebody and talk to somebody else. Like I have a friend now. I call him every damn time I talk to him, and he's a good friend. He's one of our SIU buddies, and I talk to him, and I'm like, what the hell was I? What was I? Sorry, I guess self pitying or complaining about hardship going on in my life, and unfortunately, in comparison to his. When I was a landlord, I used to like I have some in-laws that I have, well, not my in-laws, but brothers in-laws, and I would complain to them about the issues that I used to have as a landlord, and they tell me what they had going on, and I'd be like, I need to shut the hell up. So it's just, if anything, it's just the constant. I think these are times, if you feel like you're going through a hard time, check on somebody else, kind of not to necessarily just to kind of provide you with a sense of perspective, and if anything is provide if you can provide some help to those who are you're close to who are in need. I mean, because that's pretty much all you can do.
The willingness to reach out to people, the willingness to express your love and appreciation for people, I think that's something that I definitely realize is something that I'm gonna take with me through this year, and that I think a lot of people have really seen what a difference that makes, man. I'm not the most emotionally open person still, you know, but I recognize what that is worth
And,
in life, and what it means to let the people know in your life, and what they mean to you, and you know we never know when we're gonna lose, if not lose people completely, at least lose the access that we've lost to them previous, the same access that we've had to them previously, either physically, emotionally, whatever. The lot could change in an instant, and
yeah,
so we gotta make sure that our people know, that the people in our lives know what they mean to us, and like I said, it's much easier to say I love you to people now, and to give, to, like I say, just give that expression of appreciation and love to people, and that's a good thing.
yeah. I mean, it shows that. I mean, one. I mean, people don't like being vulnerable, especially men. And at the same time, but to your point is, life is fragile, especially now. Nothing else. If COVID don't teach you shit else, should teach you life is fragile. You see so many people in the news. You may not thought of them because they may have been off the scene for a while, whether they're or whatever they're in, or if they're low, they may be, and you hear about them dying, and you hear about them dying a lot, just unexpectedly, and it's just like, and I think if anything, those events, even though they may not be directly connected to you, should say, I haven't talked to this family member in XYZ time. Let me reach out to them, see how they're doing, how they're holding up. I mean, because you don't know, that could be the next, that may be the next person that you hadn't had a chance to talk to.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what's a trip though is that COVID has driven that home, but really the first lesson from that came before COVID. And I think Drew, I think you know what I'm talking about with Kobe, and that was, if nothing else happened this year, that would have been enough to make this a year that really would have been hard to forget, especially for people like us who came of age watching him, and being sports fans and basketball fanatics, and just seeing this guy who really exemplified so much in our lives, exemplified so much excellence and prosperity and prominence. To see him burn out, literally and figuratively in an instant. That was really, really shocking. And I know you wrote, you later in the year you wrote about it for weareregalradio.com, man. But just taking it back to then, man. What you know, how significant do you think that remains? Even I think how significant do you think that remains even with COVID and everything else that happened this year? Like losing Kobe, man, that's was really big.
oh yeah, it definitely was, man. I think what you said is definitely true. Even without COVID, I think that would have kind of been the bell ringing for people to appreciate their loved ones. Not that they hadn't previously, but just to hold them a little tighter, to say I love you one more time, or to give them a kiss one more time. You know what I'm saying? Just to take advantage of those moments that we have with our loved ones. Um,
And
that was
him
big.
dying with his daughter in his arms, man.
Mhm.
Gianna, man. Like the stories just and those other of all those other ones that was in the air in the helicopter, like
Mhm.
though they were going off doing something, you know, looking to play ball, to watch those little girls play basketball on the weekend, and just doing something that a lot of parents would normally do, just supporting their children. And
Mhm.
in the devil, it's like it just think, the more you think about it, man, it no matter how far we get from it, it makes it heartbreaking.
It definitely does, and by all accounts, that was something that he done, you know, many times, taking helicopters to and from, and it's just that one time, you
Hmm.
know, conditions weren't the best, and a tragedy like that happens, man. I think that's gonna stick with the basketball world for sure forever. Like I don't think we'll ever stop acknowledging the day that happened, not acknowledging his birthday, all of those things. Mamba Day, like those things are gonna persist. Long after we're gone, just because of what he meant to the game, and even more so what he meant to people, which I didn't really like. You kind of knew the effect he had on people, even after he retired. But it's different when you see it. Like I
Mm.
didn't realize, man, just the gravity of his persona, man.
It threw me off how resonant it was. Like when I just like it was sort of comparable to like Michael Jackson or something, because
Mhm.
when even though Mike had gone through a lot when he was here, I just didn't imagine a world where he wasn't here and he wasn't around, because I was born into a world where he was so prevalent already. And it was like being born in 1984, he was the biggest thing around and everything. So like my whole life, Michael Jackson was like this major prevalent uh, artist and impactful person in society. And with Kobe is a little different. I didn't know Kobe was when I was young. I was a Michael Jordan person, but he became in walking in the footsteps of Michael Jordan. Sort of tied with this this aspect of my life that was sort of central to my coming of age, and like I say, just keep it going on, growing up, and seeing him become uh, become a father and become a more mature person. He went through his troubles and the stuff in Colorado and everything, but he really had become a person who was looked at as just as a person who had so much promise ahead of him, along with what he had already done. Like it was just hard to imagine that none of that promise would come to light because of that accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of share something. So when the memorial for him in February occurred, I was here because we had a schedule for my kids' school. We didn't know COVID was coming. So I was meeting somebody, and I was meeting somebody I connected with off on LinkedIn in LA, and it took he ended up being like an hour late for our meeting because like the procession for the memorial, and I guess he was there. It was just that immense, and it wasn't that far away from the Staples Center, but it was just that the procession for it was that huge that you couldn't get anywhere.
Sure.
The traffic was that bad, and I think the thing with Kobe is that I think it's unfortunate, especially with I don't want to say that one that he passed, two just the collateral damage of his daughter and everybody that was on the helicopter at the time. But if anything, he contributed 2 decades to the game, and his work post the game I think speaks volumes for itself. And I'd like to think of Kobe to we compare like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is who, of course, is going to have his own standing. But I like to think of him as like the evolution, and I like to think of even like a LeBron James, even maybe more. Kind of in that same vein of what he does. Just being able to have a balanced life. I
Yeah.
think that the different comparing like a Jordan to a Kobe or LeBron is that the game is what keeps them is what's their comparison. But as men, I think they're a lot. I think Kobe was a pretty more well developed man by all accounts. Was a well more developed man as a father, as a human being, and I think that's the reason why his legacy is so important. It's more of that than anything. I mean, we got sports is sports, but I think that what keeps him, puts him a little bit higher, vaults him a little bit higher is his contributions as a father and a husband and a human being, beyond just the
Mm.
game.
But we all can compare and contrast, and there's fans of all. There's definitely people who when you talk about who's the goat and whatever, and they put in their reasons for goathood. Like some people prefer Kobe, some people prefer LeBron, and of course some people prefer Jordan. I like to think of them as a triangle in a way where there was influence that fed into three from each of the three, and definitely Jordan fed into the latter two. And it's interesting when you look at this year and the way that the influence of the younger two sort of reflected in different ways. We got to learn how substantial Kobe was to so many people on a personal level by losing him. We also got to see more in a broad sense his influence on things like gender equality in sports, is the way that he backed women and sort of wanted to bring to light the efforts of women in basketball and stuff like that. Like he was groundbreaking in that way as a male figure. Stepping up for women in sports in that way. And when we talk about too, what we just talked about a little while ago about being expressive and expressing your love and appreciation for people. When we talk about that memorial, a big moment of that memorial, probably the most memorable moment of that memorial was Jordan crying tears for Kobe openly and you know, being open emotionally in a way publicly that we haven't seen before, and him revealing the closeness of their relationship in that in ways that we didn't know before. That was very uh, something that took a lot of people aback, and it was definitely significant to see. But it when we look to later in the year, and the way that sports became intertwined with society, and the response of athletes to what was going on in the streets, protests and everything like that, the continuing fight for social justice, you see how LeBron James has really did a lot to pick up the mantle of athletes who came even before Jordan, and being vocal and being upfront and being willing to take risk as a leader. That sort of influenced Jordan to be more open, to take more of a significant stance as well with things, and he's been more vocal about saying Black Lives Matter and doing things that help help the movement, giving monies out to different causes that back social justice initiatives and stuff like that, and the role that he played and reportedly in fostering connections between. We remember back in August, the NBA season that they was trying to reestablish, in that bubble almost coming apart, and the role, Jordan played a role in fostering a connection between the players and the owners, and allowing that season to continue when it was on the brink of being of breaking down. And that's something that, like I said, when you look at Jordan, I think you could say that he was influenced in some ways by LeBron, and by LeBron's previous establishment of being a person who, like I say, not gonna be afraid to make stances, to make statements. Jordan, we know when he played, wasn't that guy, but he's been more of that guy in 2020 than he's ever been. So it's kind of it's to me, I see, like I say, a sort of triangle of influence that all these three have. These are the three most significant uh, basketball athletes, and three of the most significant athletes, period, in our modern times, and they all really did something to really lay their mark on this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's good you can teach old dog new tricks. It's really, I mean, that's really what you say, because Jordan unfortunately didn't have a whole lot, I don't say redeemable qualities up until really this past year or so. But
Well, he did things. He just, though, for whatever reason, he didn't draw attention to him. He didn't, you know, like I said, he made unfortunate decisions at times, like with the Harvey Gantt, Jesse Helms Senate race, when he didn't make a stance there, and this, we saw a transition now into the whole Last Dance thing, when Last Dance took on that part of his life, as well as what he did on the court. But yeah, Jordan, I think he just wasn't. He didn't feel himself to be that guy at that point. But like you said, Dave, as you can't teach an old dog new tricks at time, even an old rich dog.
yeah,
And,
yeah, and I
it's,
think that's yeah,
it's
yeah,
significant. And we look at now, another thing I should mention too, him stepping up to back up Bubba Wallace, the young black NASCAR driver. Now they're part owners in the only black-owned NASCAR racing group. So these are type of things, you can look at them in a certain way and be like, well, they bring progress in a certain way. They put black leadership and money in places where they haven't been before. And it's just certain things that I think bring about progress that we can applaud.
it does. I mean, it's a bit token. I mean, I don't want to say it's slightly token, but but it does. I mean, I think that it's just like, damn. It just feels like a lot of things just feel late. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, a lot of it is.
It just feels really laden. Like 30 years ago, same shit was concurrent. We just didn't have police didn't have body cams in, and
Yeah.
people didn't have camera phones. Same shit was occurring, if not worse. You talk to the police back in about the 80s and the 90s, they call it the good old days. So a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff like that, and just kind of the attention it is now, and then just kind of certain athletes, like Jordan, not speaking about it. Then I mean, I guess it's coming from a different place where you were scared to make the wrong move back then.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe you don't want to lose any of them endorsements. But
he was alone. He was on the island in a lot of ways at that time.
Yeah,
so it's like,
I mean, who knows?
He saw what happened to Craig, and he said, "Fuck that, huh?"
It's easy to criticize, man, and I think he does deserve some of that for sure. But it's nobody knows the psyche of a man. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knows for sure the psyche of a man. I think at that point in time too, speaking up on these issues, being an activist and an athlete wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't prevalent, you know what I mean, at all. So for, like you were about to say, Kyle, him kind of stepping out on that ledge, he probably didn't. I don't know. I don't want to get inside his head or pretend to know, but it just wasn't what it was today, And I think, LeBron gets a lot of slack for on-court, goings on, but I think there is something to be said for him never shying away from speaking his mind, no matter what realm of society or politics or life he's speaking about.
Yeah. And the passing of time and the further establishment of Black athletes as corporate entities, which is something that, again, Jordan, he was a groundbreaker in that way. So where he walked through a door where there was a lot of darkness in the room in front of him. He had to flick on the light, and the light was there for him to walk through eventually, but it was always there for LeBron. It was always there for those who followed him. So when they walked in that room, they could see exactly what was ahead of them, and they could make their moves accordingly. Jordan had to walk through some darkness at a point.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I guess I can see that, but I mean, still, he's been out the game 2 decades, so I guess the argument is it's not like he's been on the court this whole damn time, and I guess that's a part of the argument where you feel like you losing, endorsements and things like that, and you don't want to make any moves until you see somebody else make the move. He
is an industrialist, Dave. He is an industrialist, but so it's like he's more of an Andrew Carnegie, but he's going to be, but he's like I said, for him to do something, for him, like I said, more, he's done a lot. He just hasn't done it so publicly as he's done it this year.
He's using his money, not necessarily his voice, which is
I mean, but I think anything with George Floyd, I think it was just like a gut check for America. I mean, you had people. I mean, and I think we should, and we don't even overlook that. We don't just say, okay, LeBron gave him his moral conscience. Seeing a man gets his damn neck stand on for 9 fucking minutes, I think, and I think, and I'm not laughing about the event. It's just I'm laughing about. It's just like it's. I think it's something where it caused a lot of people to just be like, okay, what the fuck is going on here?
That's another thing where it's kind of separate. It's really completely separate from the COVID stuff. It's like, as a society, we reached a breaking point this year, and that's
COVID. What's that called? Inflamed it, because the thing is this. I mean,
but it kind of set the table. Yeah,
you've been in your house.
Set the table.
You've been in your house for 2.5, 3 months, and then you see this shit. Because I mean, unfortunately, you had Trayvon. You had 10 damn people. 10 well publicized cases of some shit like this occurring. Prior to George Floyd. I mean, Trayvon Mountain. Everyone that's happened to, and then you have him. And this is not even the first case you have of some fucked up shit happen in Minneapolis.
No,
Police, I can't remember my man's name who got shot.
Philando Castile.
Philando Castillo. So this is not even the first case in Minneapolis to occur. But I think the fact that people have been stuck in their house this whole damn time, they couldn't go anywhere, and then you see this monkey shit, I think that's what set a lot of people off.
For sure. I think
Yeah.
Kyle spoke about two edges of the same sword with COVID and kind of like not positives, but just I don't know what word to put to it, man. But like you two guys are saying, the fact that COVID forced us all indoors, forced us in front of TVs, forced us to pay more attention to what's going on in the world, lit a match.
It was like a laser focus on that right when it happened, and it affected everybody deeply.
Yeah, it did. And then
it was a massacre right there in front of those on all of our screens, man. It was as clear an example of a guy being executed by the state in the middle of the street as we've ever seen. And it just set everybody off.
And unfortunately,
you had two other major stories happen sort of really concurrently with Breonna Taylor and Aubrey down in Georgia. It was everything ran together like these rivulets just feeding into the Mississippi River, man, and making it overflow or something, man. And it just made the whole nation's, it just flooded the whole nation, and for that time.
That and there was no work to go to the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go to work and just like say, oh, this is some bullshit. I may protest about this on the weekend because I got to go to work tomorrow. No, I mean, there was no work the following day, so
couldn't work from it. Yep.
You couldn't. There was no distraction from it. Yeah, I think that's I think the issues with kind of injustices like this is that so many people become numb to it previously because there's so many other distractions. I mean, whether it's just the distractions of life, whereas like you got job, you got to go to work the following day, you got to take your kids to school, all of those things. I'll protest maybe on the weekend or whatever for it, but with those barriers going or the distractions gone, this is where your attention is on. And I just mentioned that to say that, while I applaud Jordan for, finding his consciousness, I just feel like this is a hard year for you to be like, well, I'm going to turn a blind eye to shit. I think that's really.
But and this was the year where you stood on one side or the other.
Right.
There was no standing in between. There was no gray areas this year. And you was either tossing the Molotov cocktail in the target, or you was trying or you was standing in front of the target trying to catch it. trying to knock the Molotov cocktail off and keep it from burning.
I think I think it's a little bit more nuanced in that conversation because I can think you can still want, and maybe not target, but I think it's a lot.
I'm kind of making a reference to that poor lady who got do you remember the lady who got like accosted in front of the stores, like she was in a wheelchair or something, and she was trying to stop the people from getting into the store, like they was about to break into the store or something, and they kind of messed up. That's one little story among many, but
yeah, no, yeah, but no, I just meant just like I think that it's a more complex. I won't say complex, but it's a more nuanced story than that, and it's just unfortunate. It's just
a lot of people did. Did at least they put themselves out there, sort of being like standing up for law and order, or standing up for property in some way, standing up for they were trying to project calm into a situation where there wasn't calm. That was trying to stand up for
order.
for they're trying to stand up for a certain way of acting in society that we were beyond that. It was beyond the pale at that point because the social construct had already been broken by our law enforcement and everything, and they were trying to act like the people had to just let that slide, but that wasn't going to be the case. That's where you get somebody like the little fuck boy from Antioch who felt that he had to stand up for for a community that wasn't even his to protect, and he goes over it across state lines and kills 2 people, and he has people that's actually backing him up because of some of this false narrative about of protecting society from these left wing agitators and protecting property from people who want to stand up for their rights.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I guess with the issue at hand that I have is that the only concern I have is that ultimately the collateral damage, the people who the collateral damage still exists after the deed is done. It's kind of like
sure.
Yeah, and I think that's really what it comes.
You see that in Chicago quite a bit, man.
That one act of catharsis, that one nut you bust and you forget to put the hat on, and now you're left with a baby that you don't necessarily want, and that's going to be there for a long time. And I think that's ultimately something that has to be kind of taken consideration. I think what happened in Minneapolis, you burning down a police station, I get that, right? But I don't think that necessarily the collateral damages of messing up small businesses, and those people are not going to be able to come back to the community or not going to feel comfortable coming back to those communities. And that's going to leave, a loss of infrastructure for a while. Now with COVID, it may not matter. I want to say it doesn't matter as much. You may not feel the brunt of it as much now, but whenever we get back to some level of normalcy and them stores ain't around, you're going to feel a certain type of way. I mean, you're not going to have access to the stores you previously had access to because those people are not going to feel comfortable being in those communities. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is that the aftermath of this is still not fully realized, especially because of COVID. You can't go you couldn't go. I mean, it don't matter. You don't feel it yet because you can't go to a lot of those stores anyway. But when you want to get back some level of normalcy and those stores don't exist anymore, or some store that replaces them, either it's not where you want to shop at, then you're going to feel like, damn, I may have, went a little too far for lack of a better term. And even furthermore, the people who then fucked the place up may not live there. And that's
that was definitely part of the whole thing. People agitating from other areas and people who didn't have stakes in the communities that were being rioted, and and then these uprisings were happening. Yeah, that was definitely the case. Yeah,
I saw that around the corner from my old house. People breaking into Ross and hitting the highway. They don't live around there. They not running down the street with the shit they looted from Ross. They hitting the highway.
Yeah.
Opportunities, man.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get my discount champion shirts for a few weeks because of that, man.
Couldn't get you tied out. Couldn't get you tied out Levi's as the young boys wear. I never understood. or your size 15 Nike that they have there.
Right. Well, you got you get the only nice pair of Nikes they got in there, but they are 15. So I gotta get my Krusty the Clown on.
You gotta feel like wear 3 pairs of socks so they fit.
Yeah. But let's start to wrap up, man, because it's just about that time. But I appreciate you guys building with me one more time this year, and I don't know. Let's try to get out on a positive note, man. We got apparently we got a vaccine in the mix. Although the thing may be mutating over there in Europe. Some I don't know, but we'll see how that goes. But they're giving out this vaccine. We got like I say, new people about to be in charge here in America, and of course we got the demon out. We're getting the demon out. We're going through the process.
God willing.
Yeah.
Got the runoff.
But see, look, he could front all he won't, but the only thing that's gonna happen is he'll get thrown out on his ass. So I kind of want him to buck up and see just what he's capable of doing, because he's gonna find out just where the line is drawn by January 20th. So I want to see that actually, but.
And very shortly into the new year, we got the runoffs, which might,
Georgia, big elections
gonna set the tone for what's gonna happen in these years to come, man, under the Biden and Harris leadership. So
yeah,
man.
I mean, let's to that degree, man. What are y'all looking? Let's bring some positivity into projecting the next 12 months at least, man.
I got a stock tip for you guys. Invest in Twisted Tea. I see them everywhere. Make sure that damn stock probably gonna go through the roof.
Yeah, Twisted Tea has had a good week or so. They really Twisted Tea is the drink of the culture now, right now.
See, some commercials gonna hit the TV soon.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, beyond that, what do y'all think? I would find it hard to have a year as bad as this past one, as challenging as this past one be.
It's all relative. I mean, like I said, it's ironic. It's really. I think it depends on kind of where you're at in life. I mean, I think that from a loss of life standpoint, just showing us what kind of the fragility of life. I think COVID is definitely, been a hard one this year for people. I mean, how's it affected you financially and business wise and livelihood wise? And that fluctuates, but depends on who you are. So I think that I think it's kind of you kind of got to take it with a grain of salt. Like I was talking to someone about like real estate, and it's like 10 years ago, everything was. Everybody was getting fucked up, for lack of a better term. And a lot of people were losing their homes, but now you got this weird thing where some people can't pay their rent, but a lot of people buying houses. So it's just a weird place to be in. Like, it's like COVID has not affected everybody across the line the same financially like the last economic downturn did 10 years ago. So it's just, it's a strange place, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, strange new world, man.
Yeah.
You got anything to add, man?
Man, just I guess if nothing else, man, if we go into this new year, or we are going into this new year in much the same way we're leaving the old one, just figuring out new ways to cope with stress, keep your peace of mind, keep your head, things of that nature, man. Just trying to plot as best we can, the best I can, professionally and personally. When when things do, if ever, get back to normal, whatever normal is going to be.
It's gonna be wearing a hockey mask every damn hour. I mean,
no lie, like having contracted COVID, like before I got my positive test, like being in public at a grocery store and even with the mask on, being afraid to cough or sneeze, because now you can't just have a regular cold no more. Like that's out the door. So like things like that, man. It's just we spoke about far-reaching repercussions and what those might be. I think that's part of them.
Yeah,
just a hypersensitivity to the smallest things now, whether right or wrong.
Everybody's a germaphobe now. Gonna be a germaphobe now.
And you look at the way that we've carried on for generations. When you look at other nations, like it's a lot of Asian nations in particular, they've lived for a long time in public, wearing masks and doing things that having cleansers on every corner and every stuff like that. We should have probably been doing this stuff 50 years ago. Like we should have been living in a much more cleaner society than we've been doing. Like if we have we shouldn't be. Maybe we shouldn't be packing in 18,000 people in arenas to watch basketball all the time. Maybe we should give each other more space in general. Maybe we should be doing a lot of the things that we need to that we've been doing in the past year to better protect ourselves and protect the others around us.
Yeah,
Like,
this
you know,
is no disrespect to anybody that's lost a loved one. Of course not. I'm not trying to make light of that, but maybe this was the earth just self cleaning. You know what I'm saying? Like you put the oven on to self clean. Maybe this is what this was, man.
we
No,
can't.
you can't, Drew. You can't. There's a lot of people down here that thought the same damn way, especially in LA. Motherfuckers don't wear their people don't wear their mask. Like especially like South LA County, Orange. You know that they had that social Darwinism mindset. Guess what's happening here? COVID rates are going. Phew. So
Yeah, it's a trip out there, man.
You're gonna keep pushing the science, man.
I was looking forward to making a trip out there at around this time, but I had to say the no to that, man. But you know,
yeah,
it's unfortunate, but look, we can't let the people who passed died in vain, man. We can't let there's a lot of stupid people out there. There's a lot of selfish people out there, but in the end, we just gotta, I think, take the best lessons that we've learned from this in regards to taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other, and just trying like I say, just form a better society in the best way that we can. I guess that's the best things that we could take from this, man. And even sometimes it takes it's going to be some inconvenience that's involved, but you just gotta live with it, man. You gotta sacrifice. A lot of people think they're sacrificing, but they really haven't. But we
nah.
we got to do. We all can do more.
Yeah. We can all definitely do more. Definitely do more to try to support people that are in worse situations than yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's really key. In light of if anything, take this time to think about the people who are in bad worse shape than you are, and try to figure out some way to support them.
Yeah. And let's try to use our platforms as best we can to connect and tell stories and let people inform people about other people that's doing good in this world and doing things that making things a little bit better out there. That's definitely something I'm gonna try to keep doing in 2021. Try to bring more people, interesting people onto this show and others. And I got a couple people I'm looking at already. Yeah, they put up someone in the chat. Definitely, we definitely could reach out to her. And yeah, she really don't be far from me doing her thing on 51st Street, Inglewood, Barbie. But yeah, there's other people too. Who I'm
Yeah.
already looking at in the mix to get on this show in particular. But yeah, we just gonna try to, like I say, enjoy ourselves and have more fun and do try to make this a place where people can like I say, be informed and take a little bit off they selves when they come kick it with us. But that's in the building, man, for 2020. And we're going to keep it moving in 2021. We are RigorRadio.com, War Media, keeping it moving. Drew, man, like I said, appreciate you, bro. Really look forward to seeing what you do in the next year, man, and wish the best for you and your family. And, of course, Dave, the same to you and your ever-growing family. And,
Nice.
be safe out there, Cali, man. And we just all gonna keep it moving, man. That's what we here for, to stay connected and stay building, man. And
I feel like I'm back on campus, man. It was nice.
yeah, I say those were some good times, man. The times I could wish I could take it back to that, man.
Man, yes.
No, definitely. Well, anything else y'all want to say, man?
Oh no. Stay safe. Stay warm. You know, if you're gonna drink twisted tea, drink it at home.
And or keep if you have to smack somebody up the head with it, keep a second one to to refresh yourself with.
No, keep keep the second one if you don't go down with the first.
Yeah. Hopefully you have to use both to knock them. Man,
You don't
because
because with COVID, you don't want to be wrestling with nobody, man. Because dude, especially dude wasn't wearing no mask, so
of course
that's why you have to keep two. Apparently you haven't seen the memes where they saying I keep two on me. You got to keep two on you. Can't just keep the one.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Keep two on you. Keep two on you. Yeah. Definitely look out for more Twisted Tea
in the glove compartment.
Yeah. Right. All right, man. That's it, man. Let's take it. We'll go out on that one, man.
All right, y'all.
A little bit hair grease,
man.
2021, man.
All right. Appreciate y'all. Good night, fellas.
All right, later.